All right, and welcome back to the Hope Community Services podcast, the Community HOPEcast. Today, we're bringing you a segment for AAPI Heritage Month in May, the AAPI Spotlight, where we are bringing on guests who are, doing great work in the AAPI community and highlighting their work and what they think of the AAPI community and landscape right now. Today, I am your host, Jane, and with me a co-host is
Khang. You've seen me before. I'm the executive director here at Hope Community Services.
And our guest today is
All right. Hello everybody. My name is Khang. I am currently a high school teacher in the community at Westminster High School. I also have a couple of community things that I involve in.
Yes,
can't wait to talk about it.
We're going to talk at length about what you've done for the local OC community so
Yeah.
far.
So Khang was the first person that popped up in my head when we make some planning for AAPI month. AAPI stands for Asian American Pacific Islanders, just so you know. So I've known Khang for so many years. And his involvement with the youth in the community, and especially being a teacher and also a youth group leaders in the past, and also one of the founders of a performing arts nonprofit organization. So he's done so much work for our Vietnamese community. So I would just let him share a little bit on what he's doing. And
Give the people at home a quick rundown of your career so far within the API community.
Where do I start? So thank you, Thank you, Jen, for having me here today. Actually, I forgot to include that I used to also work at Hope for summer school when Ham was the coordinator for the Hope summer school.
He was the summer school coordinator for at least 6-7 years.
I think so. I have a lot of history with this program, and when you got invited, I would say, I'll be here.
So should I go in chronological order? A quick chronological rundown, perhaps?
Okay. So, I actually start, because I'm a high school teacher now. I think I've been doing that for, close to 15 years.
Wow.
15 years at the same high school, Westminster High School in the community. I never thought about being a high school teacher. I think it was here that's where I got an opportunity to teach the class a lot of time. But I still didn't really want to be a teacher. I actually want to be a medical student.
I remember.
I want to be a pediatrician. That was the year I was working here, summer school, tutoring as well, just to have some money, pay the gas, and continue. But then the medical school route didn't work out. I didn't get to the school that I want to be in, so I did the teaching credential just to fill up the year so I can reapply for medical school again. But you never know what door open. And they offered me a job at Westminster High, and since on I've been there. Working at high school, it definitely gave me more opportunity to work with the youth in the community. Like how you were saying that I involved at church, youth groups, but the one thing I'm really proud is having to be one of the co-founder for Teen on Performing Arts, since this is AAPI month that we want to talk about. So Teen on Performing Arts, just want to give everybody a little head up, just a little info. It's a cultural performance team that we specialize in lion dancing, Mulang in Vietnamese, and also traditional drumming, which is Trong Hoi. I think that's what we started out with, dancing and stuff too, like Mu and stuff like that. But what really got us moving was the Trong Hoi, the traditional drumming. If you want to check out Ting An, I guess the little promo is just tinganperformingarts.com, and you can find. But we start out with just having fun, to be honest, because we live in Little Saigon. We are lucky because we got a lot of exposure with the food, right?
Yeah.
At that time, I think for the Vietnamese culture, most people, when they say Vietnamese, everybody know about food, like pho, right?
Yeah.
But not many people know a lot about like cultural performances, right? Or even Ao Dai. So we start out just a group of friends, like my sister are in it, and then a couple of friends. close friend, and then we just do it for fun. It's all for fun. We were going to school and we do for fun weekend and stuff, dancing, and then we pick up line dancing because everybody think of like Asian performance or line dancing.
Yeah.
So we did that, but it didn't really take the group like it wasn't like a unique things yet because it's like what do you call like just normal stuff, right? Line dancing.
Was it kind of more recreational or
it was for fun, like
hobby.
just a group of friends because we were young and we were reckless and we just want to have fun, you know. We perform, we get donation here and there, so it's kind of fun, like just a small group. But I think what got Ting On Performing Arts to be more exposed was when we pick up the traditional drumming. And not sure many people know the story, but I myself and a couple of the people in the group, we were at the Đại hội Giới Trẻ, which is like the Vietnamese Catholic Youth Day at UC Irvine. And they invite a drum team, it's La Sang, from
San Jose,
San Jose. And they brought the team down here and it was amazing.
Yeah.
And then as I was sitting there to watch, I like the first time ever, I feel like, wow, our Vietnamese culture has something that we should be proud and be like, like what do they call like tự hào, be. And I like, but then my second thought was when I was sitting there and watch, but we live in a little Saigon area, right? We are considered one of the biggest Vietnamese population outside Vietnam.
Right.
And we don't have a team like that. And so that's why when I and a couple of our friends and in the team, we were saying, you know what, why don't we put our money, we get involved more. But we still didn't have the money because those drums are very expensive, right? Like shipping, buying from Vietnam and stuff. So luckily, I think Trung tâm Công giáo, which is the Vietnamese Catholic Center where Hope is at, Cha Thai at that time, I think he also saw that same thing. And he's like, why don't, so he went out and bought drums.
Wow.
So, but then they don't have people to play, to learn. So then I was working at Hope, so then I have contact with him and I'm like, why don't we give it a try? So we just kind of went on YouTube. We watched some of the lesson and some of the thing. And then we just kind of like do for fun. We did at one of the event Orange Dicey or Orange, right? And people love it. Like, even though we just did for fun, it all started out just, fun, recreational, And then from then on, we like more people want to see this. So we keep working at it. Again, like sometimes when we do drumming, traditional drum chống hội, they call it chống hội, like Japanese, we have taiko.
Right.
So I want to use the word chống hội more so people recognize like a Vietnamese drumming. Because most of the time people like traditional drum. But, what is traditional drum? It's
like what culture could it belong to?
But Vietnam go like chống hội, like for Vietnamese. So then we kind of work on it, and then we got more money, and we were able to buy our own set of drums. And from then on, we just kind of work together. Most people, when they watch a drumming performance, they think that we have a background in drumming. Like, oh, wow, like you play this style, like Tây Sơn, which is like a traditional drum in Vietnam. They have like different region. Tây Sơn drumming and stuff like that. But we're like, no, we don't have that. We just come together and we be creative. And I think the amazing about in America, it's like, which everybody, in the US, everybody knows that if you dedicate your time in something, I think you can go really far.
Right.
Yeah.
And we start out from just having fun and being creative. So we are kind of, when we do prepare like a routine, we technically just sit together and do it together, try different ways. But we accepted that our drumming, we want to have a little modernized twist to it.
Right.
Because we realize that working with the young people, if you do true traditional, you lose them. And we want to have something more attractive to get their attention. So we just come up with performance, and then like 2 years later, we decide, why don't we add in music with it? And then, so if you guys watching on drumming, we now use a lot of music. And then with music, we decide move on the next step, like adding background story to the performance. and because we really want to use the performance to teach others about like the Vietnamese culture and stuff. So we start that. I work at Westminster High. I'm one of the coordinator, the advisor for the Vietnamese cultural club. So they always have like moo, like fan dance, like moo whack and stuff, and line dancing. So I like, hey, why don't I take what we have, even though we weren't like, like we have, by then, Ting on drumming wasn't long yet. So we're like, why don't we bring it to the Westminster High, because it gives us an opportunity to work with the young kids and it give us a chance to continue the art. Because, I mean, when we started, it was just a group of friends, right? And people we know, but slowly they all got married and work, career, and then they take off. So that's when I like, you know what, let's bring it to the Westminster High kids, high school kid. But the first year we did it, there weren't a lot of buy-in, because to them, they think it's weird. Especially
like this was like early 2000s.
This is the beginning. This is when I start. So I taught Western High, I think probably my third year. That's when. Well, I always there to show them lion dancing, mulang and stuff like that. That's something we always have. And mulang is, to be honest, like there's things that we can learn from already. It's everywhere. But the drumming wasn't there yet. Yeah. So trying to bring in something new for them was hard, because they see it's weird. Because our style of drumming is not just stand there and drum and create the beats, but also body movement. Movement.
So what was the factor that really helped attract the students to?
I think there wasn't any factor. So my way of doing performance is that I want to find things that would then promote the Vietnamese culture. So I have them wear áo dài, and you can see now. But back then, áo dài, to be honest, within the school for young kid, it wasn't like a popular thing.
Right.
They're like, they don't want to wear áo dài. They're like, oh, this is weird because my mom wear áo dài, my grandma wear áo dài. But of course, if you watch stuff nowadays or check Facebook, everybody love wear áo dài. But it wasn't like that back in the day.
Years ago.
Yeah. Within school, you can totally see it, because these kids all want to be cool, and they're like, I don't want to wear it. So now I'm making them do that. And I remember one of the performances we did at a middle school. I think it was Warner Middle School. And the kid did it, but they weren't very happy. And how do I know this? Because one of the teachers from the band, from Westminster, like regular school band, he came up to me. He's like, I heard some of the kids, they said like this, they hate this. And I feel so bad, I feel like, am I pushing them, forcing them? I had a choice, could be like, okay, then forget it, just shut it down, that's it. But then, I like, like anything when it comes to new things, like people are not used to it. And the easiest thing is just to shut it down, that's it, right? But they're like, I'm going to keep pushing for it, because because they always so used to like other cultural performances, like, moo, like dance and line dancing. But to me, nothing wrong with line dancing, but line dancing is more like very Asian, like because many countries do it. So I always want to have something that's unique to the Vietnamese. So I keep pushing it. And over the year, of course, the more, to a point, it is a requirement for them. Like, you want to be in the club, you have to wear the áo dài and learn the drum. And I think when we start putting music with the songs, with the drumming routine, that's where we get them, because the music we use tend to be like EDM, electronic dance music. So it's like which fit their style. And I think once they wear áo dài enough, they felt very comfortable. And also part of it, because the school, the Vietnamese classes at Westminster High, they start requiring students wear áo dài on that day. And I think the áo dài style also changed because it got more modernized, right? Everybody love it. So now you see like, nhất là ngày Tết, like the New Year Eve, the New Year Day at Westminster High, like you have probably 60-70% of the school wear áo dài. And that's including like teachers
other
and
cultures.
non-Vietnamese, Americans, students that wear áo dài. And now I don't want to say, I'm not saying like Ting An make everybody like wear áo dài, but that's personally for me, that was one of the way that we promote the culture that I feel personally, for me, I feel like honor, like I feel like we put in something that is from nothing, but then slowly it grow.
Yeah, it was definitely a spark, right?
Yeah, and a few weeks ago for Ting On, we got invited for the drumming. We got invited to perform at the Anaheim Ducks.
Oh, I heard about that. Yeah.
Yeah, that was
That's
like
amazing.
even though it was only a minute performance, but
it's an exposure.
it's an exposure.
Yeah.
And I think it's like seeing Vietnamese Yai, Vietnamese drummings, and at a professional sport.
Yeah,
And I think it's a
that's
big
amazing.
deal. And to be honest, I didn't perform, but I was there just documenting it, and I was like, wow, we went, how far we've went.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've before when I attended a World Youth Day event, which is like an international Catholic gathering of like hundreds of thousands youth all over the world. The group that you mentioned from San Jose performed there, and you should see the reaction from people like across the nations, different countries who looked at it, and I was like, wow, it's amazing. And back then I thought in my head, like, this group, like, why can't we have it in Southern California where the most Vietnamese live? And then when you guys formed the group, I'm just like, this is gonna go so far. And here we are. I think whenever we think of drumming, Tinan is the first group that popped up in our head. And I think Tinan is everywhere now. It's like, especially during New Year, you guys are at a different location throughout the whole Orange County performing and doing all that.
I mean, I definitely have to give credit to Lesan, part because I think it gives you a little motivation, a kick.
Inspiration,
so that way, but we also try to be different too, right? And I think the cool thing about culture is that you grow from, somebody set a step, and then your job is to take that step and step higher.
Right.
And
I mean,
felt
I know you said like it was kind of harder to attract like the youth because it was so traditional.
Back in the day.
But
back in the day.
And you say like you're attracting them more by doing like a more modernized spin, but I think that's really cool. It's just like the way that culture evolves, right? Especially with the coming generations. We're always evolving and adding new things to the culture, and it doesn't really take away from it because culture is always evolving itself throughout the years.
But for when you work with the young generation, is like you like you're right. Like it has to be nowadays. I think creativity is a must for everything. Like you can see from social media, people creating very creative with videos and everything. And that's what we felt like the only way for us to continue growing is we have to be creative. It's kind of like hip hop, like you have the traditional dance like salsa, tango, right?
Yeah.
And they are specific steps, right?
Right.
But I think the younger generation now, they enjoy hip hop, right? There's a hip hop culture. It's not because like rap and stuff, but I think in hip hop, like just through the dance is creative.
Expression.
Like you don't have to follow a specific step, but you can add on your own personalized. And I think that's the same thing with for drumming. We recognize the only way we can attract more the younger audience, the younger members, is we have to make it creative. That's why sometimes when we go perform, like maybe like the older, like the audience but the older generation, some of them are like, wait, this is not like Vietnamese traditional style. But I have to explain to them, we don't want to be just traditional. We want we want to attract the younger members, right? Because they technically the future of the community. Right?
But of course, like you're still honoring your traditional roots with certain aspects in the performance.
And through some of the performance, we do songs that like share like a story of Vietnamese history and culture. And when we create Ting On too, by the way, when we did the Ting On, Ting On is a nonprofit organization, and that's because when we decided took it into more like mainstream nonprofit, like 501c3 organization, is because we want to create like a platform.
Right.
Because when I was at when I work with Western High student, I realized that once they done with high school year, that was it for them.
Right.
So then we we need a platform for them to continue as long as they can, right? As long as they want. So that's why we did Ting On, and we invite them once they're done with high school, or even during high school. We're like, hey, if you guys enjoy doing this, you can be part of the non-school community team, which is the team.
Yeah.
It's like a platform for them to continue. You know, like out of 10, you might have like, you know, 3 or 4 kids that will continue on, which is still good. It's still better than they learn the arts and then that's it for them.
And I think that's great when you're, you know, out of school too, to have something like you know, another skill that you can have, another hobby outside of just, you know, school work, that kind of thing.
I wanted to ask you how important you think it is for yourself and also for the kids or for the youth that are in your performing arts group to be to have that connection with their Vietnamese roots in order for them to become a successful adults.
Yeah.
I think that's important.
Thank you, Hao. That's a good question. And we went through this. I went through this thinking too, was because young people nowadays, especially when COVID hit, is terrible. Like it really, I always make fun of like all the teacher we usually talk about students. Like when COVID hit, it gives everybody like a chance to know the feeling of how fun it is not to do anything.
Right.
Like, because everybody back then, you know that, you have an option of staying home, do nothing, right? But then you always feel like, my friend out there, I have to go to school, I have to be out there. But then when COVID hit, everybody forced to be home.
Right.
And then now everybody suddenly get to experience that firsthand. And they're like, hey, it's actually easier just to stay home, watch Netflix, watch YouTube, and that's it. And in Ting An, we don't want that. We want the kid to be at events, cultural event. When we did Ting An, we lucky we got a chance to perform like Ying Han Tet, like the Tet Festival on Bosa Avenue. And many events in the community, like for church, we have Đức Mẹ La Van, like all that stuff. Normally, I think those kids probably
would never.
Yeah. Unless there's like a connection, something. So at least just having a performance that they know they're there. And hopefully, maybe they will not participate the entire event, but at least they're there and then they can see something like, oh, that's pretty fun, right? Out here. So then the next time it happens, they will choose to come. Another thing with Ting An is, beside cultural, is that we really want to help the young kids for building their confidence. The cool thing about Trong Hoi, like drumming in a large group, is that you're not the main, you're not on the main spotlight all the time, right? You want to be part of it, but maybe in a dance, a small group, like 3 or 4 or 5 people, you might feel like, I'm camera shy or stage shy, right? I don't have the confidence. So then you might not do it. But then when we do drumming, it's a large group. So then I enjoy drumming, but I don't want to be on the main stage. But at least now the spotlight, but at least now I'm part of it.
Right.
And hopefully I will learn to be more confident and slowly be the spotlight.
I think that's great because then it feels like the pressure is like dispersed out a little bit,
definitely.
right?
Yeah. And I think the key is you mentioned confidence and that identity, like, that they can, because as an adult, I think that's what really make a person success is be confident of who they are and finding their own identity. And like through all these experience that they have as young people growing up, if they can be exposed, if they can be helped in a way to get them there, to have a strong identity, to have strong confidence, and they'll become like very successful adults.
I mean, part of identity formation is also gaining those new experiences, right? Yeah. Have you had any conversations with any of the members of the Ting An Performing Arts and how they felt about being part of it, especially if they were long term?
Well, so I mean, we there's many because I have some students from Western Sahai that they weren't thinking about Ting An anything. They just they joined VACC, which is Vietnamese Cultural Club at Western Sahai. They do the dances or the drumming or line dancing just because it's their high school year and they do it, and then they realize that they enjoy it, like, and they realize that they get to be closer to their like the root, like the culture. I think it's like the small step because some kid might enjoy learning Vietnamese, right? And that's how they stay close to the Vietnamese culture and with their family, right?
Yeah.
But then some kid they might not, right? So then, but then they might enjoy like dancing or drumming or line dancing. So now they get to pick that, and then they get a connection a little bit, but then hopefully it builds from that.
Yeah, it's definitely language is definitely a shortcut connection to culture, but other avenues are also good.
Yeah. I know you have kids as young as 6 in your group. And I think I have young children myself and you do too. And I've asked my kids to join your group. Like I was like, JP, this is so cool. Why don't you join the drumming? And he's like, no, it's weird. That's their reaction, right? And I've been
even still,
I've been trying very hard to get my kids to go to Việt ngữ or to join Teen Performance Group, but they still have a strong resistance toward it. Like this is coming from me, who's very involved with the Vietnamese community. So I've known that probably many parents out there who's also trying to have their kids get in touch with their cultural root but still have not been successful at it. So maybe if you can give some advice, or what do you think, what should be the things that we'll be doing to making sure that our kids continue to celebrate their heritage and celebrate their cultural, and so that they can become, somewhat having that connection that we talked about?
It's a tough question, huh? I think if I say I know the answer, then I'll probably get rich by people pay me, talks and stuff like that. But I think for me, it's just expose them. I think for me, the first thing is just having that communication, that they actually awareness, like they're aware of it.
Right.
The lucky thing for us is we live in Little Saigon, so we are exposed with foods, right? Performances, musics, and everything, right? For Vietnamese. But I have kids that their parents like them to join and then bring them to the practice. And then, but I don't see the joy from the kid. I mean, for me, it's just forcing them to be in it. Then they might react in the wrong way, and then now they hate the culture. I think for the thing is just expose them from young. As an educator, I think when I get a chance to be at like an elementary school, when we're educator, the talk right now is the motivation, right? So putting a new hat, an educator hat, is like having kid to be motivated to do well in school and career and life. It's getting less and less, like for me in general, when I talk to other educators as well. But when I get a chance to go to like an elementary, I see the motivation is so high. Like the kid, no matter what you do, no matter what language barrier they have, it's like they're willing to do everything, try new things. And then I also get a chance to observe like middle school. And then I this is the group of kids that I'm very familiar, because these are the same kids I'm moving on to high school where their motivation just totally dropped.
Right.
So I think for me, again, if I know the answer, then, but I'm gonna try my best. Is I think when they're young, you just have to keep exposing them to it. Like you keep that motivation going, and of course we know that as they hit teen, there's hormone change and there's different things in life and stuff. They start to lose a little bit, but if you keep exposing them to it, and maybe give them a variety of way. Like again, like I said, it doesn't have to be like drumming.
Right.
It doesn't have to be learning Vietnamese, right? It could be through food. Could be through traditional
celebration.
Like
Tết,
because Tết, like or Vietnamese wedding, right? It's like those things are so beautiful. Like hopefully, I also have students in high school that maybe when they're young, they never thought about being, the importance of calling them, identify them as Vietnamese American. And they didn't want that. But then when they get to high school, they got a chance to join like VACC, like the Vietnamese Cultural Club, right? Just the little things that they do in there. For them, suddenly they're like, maybe their friends start wearing áo dài, right? Then they want to follow that.
Yeah.
Sometimes they don't listen to the adult, right? I think we all know, like when we were young, like before I have kid, I always felt like, yeah, the adult, they don't know what's going on, right? You know everything. But then now as a parent, like how you're also a parent, you know that you start realizing you appreciate like your parents, like you start getting to a state where you're like, oh, it makes sense why they said that to us, why they make us do this and that. We didn't see that.
Right.
But I think just expose them to it. Maybe they don't listen to you, but they might have a friends that might be in drumming, and then they follow that.
Yeah.
We also have a couple of Khang nieces, right?
Oh.
They in the drumming team.
Yeah.
I think some of them, they might do it just because their friends are in it, and then they join because it's fun. They get the chance to go out. So I think that's just like maybe give a different try, like different.
I mean, I think there's something to say about, when you're like very young, like maybe elementary school, like you were saying, then it's definitely about exposure to new experiences that maybe they won't willingly choose it yet. But then with more exposure and seeing it be more normalized, they'll get in their head that it's maybe cool, it's okay. But definitely as well, when you're grown up more, like later teens, high school, like as you start transitioning into adulthood and stuff, that's really the time when you start maybe reflecting on your identity and perhaps going back and choosing those experiences again.
So as I'm listening to both of you, it's like whatever that we're doing currently for our kids, just exposure, just taking them to events, just celebrate all the cultural holidays. So that just kind of get them familiar with that, what it is. And who knows, maybe when they're older, that connection will finally hit. You know, like, I did that when I was younger. So now that's who I am.
So here, I have an example, like, because my oldest kid is 4, right? My youngest 2. They are at a lot of drumming practices and events and line dancing as well. Like, they love it. They love watching it. And when they watch the YouTube video, they actually take out pillow and like a chopstick and drum, right? And do that.
Cute.
But when, because she's at the age where I think, I seriously think that she's really good for her age. Like my oldest one, she's 4. But then I'm like, hey, the junior team, because we're team on now, we open a junior team. Because our goal is to teach them young and expose them to it. And then hopefully out of 10 kids, we might have 4 or 5 continue. So that way we build upon that. But then when I asked my daughter, like, hey, you're so good at it. Why don't you do it? She went to one practice and she said she doesn't want to do it. But guess what she liked to do? Like every time we turn on the video, she liked to imitate, like drumming. So I like, you know what? I'm not gonna force her like, hey, go do it. I'm just gonna let her keep being exposed to that.
That's good.
And later on, if she choose not to do it, then it is what it is.
Yeah.
But if she still choose to, she do it, then good. But I would try other things too, like, and we have her wear ao dai. That's something they love too. So I like, okay, at least she still have a little connection to the Vietnamese culture and of course food, right? So hopefully one day maybe she's in a group of friends and her friend decide to do it, and then they all like, okay, it's fun to do it together, and they do. We have many kids, many of the performer that they just, to be honest, they do it just because their friends are in it, and then slowly they enjoy it, and then they continue. We have a couple of kids that they have career already, but they still involved.
Oh, that's nice.
But they start out friends doing the drumming.
Hearing about Tiang, that was really interesting because I hadn't really known too much about it, but that was really cool hearing the origin story and everything. I guess expanding on the topic of AAPI, and as we're talking upon this, so how do you think AAPI culture, your background, how has that influenced all of your work? Because you have such a wide body of work, right? Ting Ang, Westminster High School teacher, youth club, everything.
It's a good question too.
So how has your culture influenced your body of work?
I think for me, because I immigrated here from Vietnam 1994. We were part of the humanitarian organization. So I mean, I was 10 when I came here. So I think I'm lucky to still have that exposure being in Vietnam and seeing things and learning things. So when I'm here, and then we stay in Little Saigon as well. So I didn't lose that Vietnamese cultural, like influence. But I never felt like I want to get away, because I have friends that technically the same age, came at the same time. They want to move away from here and stuff like that. So they didn't want to be connected to being Vietnamese, right? But for me, I always enjoy that. I always feel like I have to represent myself well. And once I achieve that, I want to make sure I want to educate non-Vietnamese American, right, about our culture and be proud of it. Like I said in the beginning, right, we didn't have much to, I don't know, maybe somebody else speak different, but back in the day, I feel like the only thing that people know Vietnamese American through food, right? Like pho, right? Food, like different food. But I think now more people know through our, like performances, right? Dresses, right? Because when we have that, like we have like many teachers that like they want to wear áo dài, and they always ask myself and a couple of the Vietnamese teachers were like, where can I get these áo dài, right? So I think for me personally, I've always want to continue making sure that the Vietnamese culture, right, history as well, that more people know about it, because I think the best way of like educating people is maybe if you just talk about it, then some people they don't receive it well. But if you find ways, like could be sometimes I take friends, like educator friends, to like Vietnamese restaurant and give it a try and stuff like that, and people enjoy that. And I think for me, luckily we have the performing team, so we get many opportunity to really bring the Vietnamese culture out there. We, for the Vietnamese club at Western Sahai, every year we take the performance, the TED performance. We go to like, this year we went to like 12 different like elementary and middle school.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, just to do the whole TED performance. And I mean, the kid love it. Like people love it. I mean, the kid that part of it like it. But then the audience, they also love that. And that's our chance. Maybe not big, but like slowly we want to introduce that. And been doing this for 10 plus years, I really see the change. Like I told you, just from the wearing áo dài for our own Vietnamese student, it was hard at first, but now they love that. So yeah.
I think for me, especially the evolution, as long as as it pertains to Vietnamese culture, right, it has definitely grown. And I think there's still plenty of room to grow. But, when you look at, for example, Lunar New Year, the evolution from this was something that was primarily thought of as celebrating like China, for example. Yeah. But now we call it like Lunar New Year.
Yeah,
there are
right.
many other countries that celebrate it.
So can I add a story for that? So when we did for the Anaheim Ducks like a few weeks ago, I'm sure back in the day, right, when you have those big national event, most of the time people write Chinese New Year.
Yeah.
But they actually have on the screen like Lunar New Year. So Lunar New Year. And then when they announced the performing team, they said it's a Vietnamese cultural performance celebrating. So instead of saying Chinese performer or
like Asian
performer, right?
Yeah.
So there's a change. It might be within where we live, but hey, it take time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think some of these things like, certain specific dishes in our culture or áo dài, that's iconic, right? It might reach like the mainstream and maybe that's the first thing people think of, but I think that's a good stepping stone, right? Like that's your gateway into knowing more about the culture. Yeah, okay. And so I guess we already talked about what, you think is the key to connecting the next generation to their cultural heritage. And we talked a lot about it pertaining to like Tingang and stuff, but do you think there's anything else as ways to connecting to your cultural heritage?
So speaking of that, I want to add in one thing too, is I seen other people that also try to do what we do too, and they might not go far. I think part of it is if you really want someone to appreciate your culture, or you trying to send like a message to someone, I think you have to be yourself, has to be flexible as well. So, because I know the Vietnamese culture or thinking from like the elders is like, it's my way, right? Or everything else wrong.
Yeah.
I think if you do that, you will lose the attention from kids or from anyone. So I think what I always try to do is when I work with the young members, I want to listen to them as well. Like try to see what they have for suggestion and grow from that. Instead of like, this is how it is. You either learn and be part of it or you don't. Yeah. I don't think that one works. Right. So that's the one thing for me, working with the young. It's not easy, by the way. It's like, I think most people see performances. Like when we go perform, people are like, oh, wow, how cool is that? This must be the amazing thing. They see the final
product, right?
Yeah. But then they forget like the process you have to go through. I think the hardest thing is keeping everybody together.
Yeah.
I think it's the hardest. Like performing is not a problem. Creating a performance not a problem. It's just still keep everybody for long term and keep building upon that. I think that's the hardest thing.
Yeah. And what you said about trying to be flexible, that's kind of the key to a lot of connection, right? Between people. It's keeping an open mind, being willing to change, adaptability. Yeah.
Yeah. So like for me, I'm at the point here, like for me, it's just like for me, I'm at the point where right now, because with family and stuff, it's really hard for me to be super active with Ting On. But then luckily, those younger members that were working with us, now they're older and they are ready to kind of like take over. And I'm happy to see that, you know, they appreciate the important, like in the beginning, they might do it for fun, but now they start seeing the bigger picture of it, like the importance of it. And they are taking over more. And now I'm just kind of like behind the scene. Like, to be honest, like when people ask me like, oh, you must be taking something. Like, no, for me, it's more like cleaning the drums and putting stuff away, making sure that the equipment's still good. That's for me primarily. But it's nice seeing that there's a continuation and build upon.
Right. Yeah, and you pass on the torch, right?
Yeah, and I think that's part of like, you know, like growing up too, because you can't continue to do the same thing forever until you die. You just gotta leave a legacy, you know, like have someone else take over. But definitely your work or your support in the group is still there.
You're right. Yeah. It's just sometimes just being there,
right,
for them to see that you're still there. They feel comfortable and they feel a little confident. I mean, they're more confident for them to move on. Because if you kind of disappear, sometimes like I feel I don't have many more time because with kids, but then I try to just at least be there, because I feel like the moment I might just disappear, then they might, you know, you like they might feel like, oh, there's no one to support us. So, but then you don't have to be super active for them to do things. And speaking of this point too, and I think that's the message that. Because I got a chance to involve many community events in the community Little Saigon. It seemed like it's easy to say. I feel like the older generation, maybe they tend to say, yeah, we want more younger Vietnamese American, you know, living in Little Saigon to be more involved with things. We want to pass the torch back to them. But I feel like they just saying it. And then they say it, but then they don't give the torch.
They still want you to do things
their way.
They still want
to do things their way. And I feel that is the struggle of our community right now. And that's why in a bigger picture, I feel a lot of the event, you see majority back. And even though I know that inside they know they don't have much year, but they have to get to a point where they have to be comfortable just trusting the younger, like say here. And they just stay back and be supportive. And and my hope is that people like ourselves, right? Like because I think we have a better understanding with how the American way, how American people work, is that a leader, there's multiple way of leadership. one way is servant leadership. Like you don't have to be the person that like, hey, you do this, you do that to be the leader. You can be like set by example. Like, hey, how's everything going? You know, good. Okay, you take care of that, and just there. Hey, let me know when you need help. I think we need to do more to get more of the younger. And I think in the community, for the Little Saigon area here, I think we are losing that. Like, Maybach's still too involved. Like, they still want to be the face of big event, and now they're just pushing the young members away. And to a point, they might need those young members back. They might not get them back because they missed the opportunity. And I think right now is a big problem. And I hope that maybe it's easy for me to say that. Maybe when I'm at their age, maybe I might think different. But I want to remind myself.
I think we have more of an understanding of the cross generational because we're coming from that. We're at that point.
Like we care for the Vietnamese culture, but we also know that we can't do it for forever. We need the younger generation. So hopefully.
Do you have anything else to tag onto that?
No, I just wanted to thank you for coming here today.
I guess to wrap up, I guess we just want one more question.
Feel free.
Looking towards the future, how else do you want to progress with your work in the AAPI community?
For me, I think just continue. For me, I guess it's easy for me to say because I'm at a point where I can look back, right? I felt like when I was younger, I had all these plans, like go to medical school, right? Have career, make a lot of money, But then I look back, I feel like I somehow end up on things that I didn't really plan. So maybe it's easy for me to say that I'm at this age now, I can say it. But of course, for someone who's younger, they might be like, I need to have a plan, which is good. I'm not saying don't have a plan. Have a plan, but just look around as well, because you never know that opportunity will be there somewhere that you might not think about it, but it's there for you. For regarding to AAPI community, I think we just continue doing everything that we can, pretty much. Like even the smallest thing. I think even just like being at an event to support like an AAPI event, like just be supportive. I think another things that I feel like Vietnamese culture is kind of not good about is when we can't do it, we don't support it. We talk bad about it. And I think that's a bad trait for Vietnamese people. I try to remind myself, like, let's say if one day we have another drumming teams, right, that are good, that have the potential, to be supportive of it. Like, it's a good thing. Like, you did your part. You set that stone. Now somebody else want to take over it. Like, that's fine. That's fine. And I think that's the one thing I try to remind myself is be supportive. And I so any AAPI event, anything I can do, even just being here today, just be supportive. Be supportive.
So nothing too specific yet about your own plans
in
the community, like anything specific for
run
you?
for officials?
Plan. To be honest, right now because I have 2 kids, so I just try to survive day by day.
I know.
I want to be part of their life until to a point to a point that we say, no, I don't want you to be at my event anymore. Because I work with a lot of the older teachers, and that's the one thing they always told me is like to be part of their life for now, that they still want you. And I think that's the same thing, performing team as well. They still want me to be there. I'll be there. But the moment they feel they can just go off and do it, it's fine too. Be supportive. For me, once everything's settled down, all the kids are
grown up,
go to college, move out and stuff. Because I feel I've been involved in education. By the way, education for me started from at Hope, just being a tutor and then work at summer school. I think this is where I got that love for education. And then I got exposed to mainstream public education. And now I also involved with like unions, teacher unions. And I got an opportunity to see different sides. I also have my credential in administration. So technically I could apply for vice principal to do those things. But I just feel the opportunity is not there. But if there's a chance, I would like to maybe something in like school board. I'm not saying I'm doing it yet, so with my wife watching this, she won't get freaked out because I think I've done enough things. But I like to. There are people, right, that just run for some office position because of the name.
Right.
But for me, if I do something, I want to make sure I have a background in it. I don't just like do it just because of the name. So I feel for the Asian Americans in education, it's getting better, but it's still underrepresented.
Especially
Teacher are
for
there
our
more.
area. Yeah.
Teachers, there are a lot more now because I remember when I was at Westminster High School, which is 48% of Vietnamese students, Asian population. But now there's more teachers. There are Vietnamese Americans. But I think the one thing is administrator.
I agree.
Yeah, and those are the people that are setting policy and guideline. I can when I have an opportunity, I like to pursue that. But then there's also school board that would be more public. So but again, I think I just want to enjoy.
In the near future.
Time with the kids.
Yeah.
But definitely the representation of an AAPI background person in any type of leadership form would be great for our population where we are, like our physical population.
And we're not saying it because like we have to be there. No, it's just, like for example, when I'm a teacher, right? When you have a Hispanic student and a Vietnamese student, I don't expect that Hispanic student to be more relatable to me. Makes sense? Like, yes, I can still build a relationship, teacher-student, but it can go further if you know the culture, you live the culture, right?
There are certain nuances.
They build a bonding. Like, if you still remember you're a student, you have, an Asian
and not
teacher,
just to the student, but to the family, to the parents, and that makes a big difference in every student's education life.
Like, diversity is a plus, right?
Yeah.
I teach science, so natural selection. The more diverse you are, the better.
Nice.
But of course, like you there's a connection, right? You understand the culture, the family upbringing more.
But at least for the near future, I think even if you aren't super involved out in the community, but you're just lending your support, that's great. Yeah. And I mean, for the small number of people that you are supporting, like you are probably one of their key connections to the AAPI community. Yeah. Yeah, I guess that was great to close.
That was a great conversation.
Yeah.
I hope you continue to do what you do and taking our next generation to that closer level of connection that they have with the AAPI roots. And I just want to thank you again for being here. Thank you for sharing your thoughts.
And that was us on the AAPI segment.
Can I say one more thing?
What's up?
I have a last thing.
Is there something to share?
You don't have to do big things to make change. I think it's just even the smallest thing.
Yeah. Wonderful.
And I think one small person, they can still contribute a lot.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay.
Plus, you never know what might happen, when opportunity comes knocking.
Yep.
So, nice. That's
Right.
our wrap on our episode.
time.
You can catch us on our socials at Give Us Hope OC. You can catch our podcast on YouTube or Spotify. All right. Bye.
Bye.